Here's a segment from this month's edition of St. Charles Parish Today, a new monthly local talk show.
Hurricane season 2010 is upon us, and parish government is hard at work preparing for any threat that may come our way. Whether it's assisting special needs residents in an evacuation or fighting storm surge in vulnerable areas, the parish stands ready. And some recent drills have given workers the refresher course they need in advance of any storm threat. We have with us today St. Charles Parish Emergency Preparedness Director Scott Welchel to discuss the parish's hurricane plans. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Renee.
So first things first, why is it so important to heed evacuation orders once the parish gives those orders in advance of a hurricane?
Well, the St. Charles Parish government doesn't take an evacuation order lightly. If we issue that evacuation order, it's because not only will residents not have critical services if they remain here, such as hospital and other emergency services, they have a threat to their life. And we have vulnerabilities in this parish. Approximately 80% of our structures on the West Bank are at 5 feet or lower, which poses a very significant storm surge threat. Even on our East Bank, with a hurricane protection levee, they too could have overtopping of the levee and a very dire consequence as a result of that.
Okay, so what options exist for those folks out there who may not have transportation to go ahead and get out of the parish on their own?
Well, fortunately, St. Charles Parish residents almost overwhelmingly take care of themselves and get out of the parish whenever they're ordered to do so, and that's a very good thing. But we recognize the fact that some people just don't have the means to do so. So as an absolute last resort, we have an assisted evacuation program. As you mentioned before, we had a parish-wide exercise to make sure that we could do that as efficiently as possible. I think we've made some really good changes, and that should flow very smoothly. So for those people who need to take advantage of that assisted evacuation program, we encourage them to call 783-5050, get with the EOC, and get pre-registered.
Okay. So what about pets? Say a person out there is looking to take advantage of that assisted evacuation program. What should they know about bringing their pets with them, and what advice do you have just for people who may need to evacuate with their pets on their own?
Right. I mean, this is good advice for either one of those two groups. If they're going to participate in our assisted evacuation or take care of themselves, they should have a pet carrier, at least 3 days of food, and they should have their shots updated and their shot record with them. This will ensure that if they're evacuating with the parish, our animal control department, which does a great job putting that together for us, knows that the shots are up to date, and they know that the residents will be able to help take care of those pets. Ultimately, it is their responsibility to take care of the pets, and the parish will provide housing and a way to transport those pets if they need to participate in the assisted evacuation.
Okay, what about those residents out there with special needs? What do they need to do?
Yeah, our St. Charles Parish Hospital and Emergency Medical Services has done a great job layering a good process for those folks into our evacuation process. Everyone who's on our special needs list and database in the EOC gets an annual card mailed out to their residents to re-register with that database. If you need to add people to that list, then we encourage you to call the EOC at 783-5050. Those special needs personnel will be taken care of in the assisted evacuation, but we do need a caregiver to accompany them, so that's a very critical aspect of that program.
Okay, so what are some good evacuation routes for people to know about, and what about the reentry process after the storm has passed through?
There are many different ways to get out of the parish, so we're fortunate in that regard. However, when the state issues its contraflow order, it's going to get a little hairy on the road. It's going to pose a problem. So we encourage people to familiarize themselves with lsp.org, and that's the website from the state police that dictates the best way to use the transportation routes to get out of the parish. As an example, we have Louisiana Highways 1848, 3127, and U.S. Highways 90 and Airline 61, as well as the interstate. Now, what I can tell you is these main routes will become congested. People should get their own map out, look at the LSP website, and formulate their own plan based on the destination that they're headed to.
Okay, is there anything else you'd like to add for people?
Yeah, our reentry process is the same as what you will find on the LSP website. We do not add any additional layers to or complexity to the reentry process in terms of credentialing and other things of that matter, because our philosophy in St. Charles Parish is to bring back our residents as quickly as possible, as soon as it is safe. One added layer, unfortunately, of complexity going into this hurricane season, as we're all aware of, is the oil spill in the Gulf. Local, state, and federal officials are working with academia, technical experts in DEQ and EPA, and many other 40-pound brains trying to determine what actually would happen with that oil in the event of a storm. Right now, there isn't a whole lot of consensus. So what we're doing is working with those officials to ensure that any added complexities that would come into play for the hurricane season as a result of the oil spill, we will be prepared for those, and we're meeting with officials as we speak to do so.
Great. Okay, very good information. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you, Renee.
Catch the entire episode right here on Channel 6, daily at 5 p.m., or watch anytime at scptoday.com.